Welcome to the second edition of Federal Civil Service Directorate Promotion Examination presentation on CBT questions and answers. Today we're going to look at the Public Service Rule Chapter 2 and 3, and we'll be considering 50 CBT questions and answers. If you do appreciate this video, don't forget to share this video with your friends and be sure to join our membership platform so that you can be able to get updates of these videos once they are produced. Now, without wasting much time, let's go to the first question. Considering the first question, we'll be looking at rules of appointments on probation. And the first question we'll be looking at is, what is the typical period of probation for an officer newly appointed to the service? Is it 2 years? Is it not less than 6 months or not more than 2 years? C, 3 years, and D, 1 year. The correct option to this question is option B. If we look at rule in chapter 2, section 2 and rule 1 of the Public Service Rule, specify that officers on probation are required to serve for 2 years, but this period can be reduced to not less than 6 months or extended up to 2 years. So that means it should be not less than not less than 6 months and not more than 2 years. So option B is the right option. I want you to take note of this because your examiners might use answer option A to confuse you, but know that it is either 6 months or not less than 2 years. So that means a typical period of probation can be 1 year, but it must not be less than 6 months. Question number 2. Question number 2 says, what happens to an officer's appointment if they do not pass their prescribed examination within the probational period? A, the probational period is extended. B, the appointment will be confirmed. C, the appointment may be terminated. And D, they will be demoted. The right option to this question is option C. According to the Public Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3, Rule 3, it says that any officer on probation is required to pass the prescribed examination. And if they fail to do so, what will happen is that the appointment will be terminated at the end of the probational period. So option C is the right option. Question number 3 says, which body is responsible for making recommendations regarding the confirmation of officers holding senior posts? A, the Ministry or Extra-Ministerial Office. B, the Federal Civil Service Commission. C, the Permanent Secretary / Head of Extra-Ministerial Office. And D, the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. The correct option to this question is option C. The Public Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3 and Rule 4 states that the recommendation for the confirmation of officers holding senior posts shall be made by the Permanent Secretary of the Supervising Ministry or the Head of Extra Ministerial Office. And that makes option C the correct the correct option. Now let's consider question number 4. Question number 4 says, who are the members of the Junior Staff Committee JSC and the Senior Staff Committee SSC in parastatals? A, the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation and the Permanent Secretary. B, the representatives of the Department of Human Resources Management and an observer from the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. C, the Chief Executive Officer and the Financial Officer. And D, the Board of Directors of the parastatal. The correct option to this question number 4 is B. According to PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 2, and Rule 5, it states that the membership of the Junior Staff Committee and Senior Staff Committee in parastatals includes a representative of the Department of HRM of the Supervising Ministry and an observer from the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. So that makes option B the correct option. Question number 5. A newly recruited officer who has spent 6 months and above shall be allowed to sit for compulsory examination for confirmation in the service. Which rule specifies this? Now, this question warrants you to know rules that has to do with what? With the PSR. Now, you should know that this rule will be in Chapter 2 of the PSR, and it will be in Section 3 of Chapter 2. Now, the question is, which rule is it? Is it Rule 2, Rule 5, Rule 6, and Rule 7? Definitely, we know that Rule 2 and Rule 5 is off the hook because we have discussed about that. So it will either be Rule 6 or Rule 7. And the correct option is option C, because Rule 6 specifies that a newly recruited officer who has spent 6 months and above shall be allowed to sit for compulsory exams for confirmation. So the right option to that question is option C. Now let's go to question number 6. Question number 6 says, an officer wishing to transfer from one senior post to another within the Federal Public Service must have served for a minimum period of how many months? Take note of this question. These are typical questions that you might see in your CBT exams. A, 3 months, B, 6 months, C, 12 months, or D, 24 months. Remember, transfer from one senior post to another within the Federal Public Service. The officer must have served for a minimum period of how many months? The right option to this question is option B. The Public Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3, Rule 7 states that an officer must have served for a minimum period of 6 months in his original post before seeking a transfer to another post. Hence, the correct option is option B. Question number 7. What is the consequence of failing to pass the compulsory confirmation exam for clerical grade officer? Clerical grade officer. Option A, the officer will be retired. Option B, the officer will have their probational period extended. Option C, the officer may have their appointment terminated at the end of the probational period. Option D, the officer will be demoted. The correct option to this question is option C, because the PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3, Rule 3 specifies that an officer on probation is required to pass the prescribed examination. Failure to do so may lead to his termination, the termination of his appointment. Question number 8. The probational period for an officer holding a senior post may be extended up to a minimum of 2 years. Which rule specifies this? Is it Rule 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of Chapter 2, Section 3? PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3, Rule 1 states that the probational period may be extended to a maximum of 2 years. A maximum of 2 years. And that means the correct option is option A. Question number 9. An officer's probational appointment is terminated or extended based on the recommendation of which authority? Is it A, the authority of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, B, the authority of the Permanent Secretary, C, the authority empowered to appoint the officer, or D, the Federal Civil Service Commission. The correct option is option C. According to the Public Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 3 and Rule 3, it indicates that at the end of the probational period that the officer will, unless their probational appointment is terminated or extended, be confirmed in the appointment by the authority empowered to appoint them. So it's the authority that is empowered to appoint them who will be required to make recommendation for termination or extension. So the correct option is option what? Option C. Question number 10. Which rule outlines the conditions for transfer within the Federal Public Service? Is it Rule 1A, Rule 5, Rule 6, Rule 7, or D, Rule 4? The answer to this question is C. Rule 7 details the procedures and conditions for transfer within the Federal Public Service, including the minimum service period and the application period. Now let's look at some questions taken from the rules for appointments on short-term engagements. Let's look at question number 11. How is a contract appointment defined in the rules? Is it defined as a temporary job? A. B. A temporary appointment for which provision is made for the payment of a pension to a post at the level to which the appointment is made, or C. A temporary appointment for which no pension is paid, or D. A temporary appointment for which provision is not made for the payment of a pension to a post at the level to which appointment is made. The correct option to this question number 11 is option D. The PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 4, Rule 2 defines a contract appointment as a temporary appointment for which provision is not made for the payment of a pension to a post at the level to which the appointment is made. So the correct option is option what? D. Question number 12. Question number 12 says, what is the maximum duration of a contract appointment? Is it A, 1 year, B, 2 years, C, 4 years, and D, 5 years? Question number 12, according to the PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 4, Rule 6, Part 6 specifies that the duration of a contract appointment must be 1 or 2 years and renewable, but not more than 4 years in total. Now, if we look at this rule, we have 1, we have 2 years, we have 4 years. So candidate might be confused and will start thinking if it is 1 year or 2 years. Here, you should be careful and know that it is a total of what? Of 4 years. That is the maximum duration of a contract appointment. But if they ask you what is the minimum duration of a contract appointment, that question might most likely come. And if they say what is the minimum duration of a contract of appointment, remember it must be 1 or what? Or 2 years. The minimum is 1 year. So taking note of this question, your examiner might want to trick you with this, telling you the minimum instead of the maximum. So the minimum is going to be 1 year and not 4 years. Take note of this. So the correct option is option C. Now let's look at question number 13. When processing contract appointments, who is responsible for identifying the required skill? Is it A, the Federal Civil Service Commission, Is it B, the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation? Is it C, the Ministry or Extra Ministerial Department? Or D, the National Youth Service Corps? The answer to question number 13 is C. According to PSR Rule Chapter 2, Section 4, Rule 5I, it states that ministries, extra ministerial departments, agencies are to undertake identification of required skills and define the skills at the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, whose responsibility shall be to work out and approve a waiver for the desired skill. Now, two things: the ministries or extra ministerial departments or agency is to identify. The question might come as who is required to defend the skill. Who is required to work out and approve the skill. It is the office of the head of the civil service of the federation. But the person required to identify the required skill and defend the skill before the head of the civil service of the federation is the ministry or the head of the extra ministerial department. So we want you to note that it's very important. This is CBT question, and the question might be tweaked in such a way that you might not be able to understand it. So note who is responsible for identifying, not approving. If they say approving, then it should be the head of the civil service of the federation. But so since they say identifying the required skill, it should be the ministry or extra ministry ministerial department. Question number 14. An officer on contract appointment is responsible for monitoring serving officers as a condition for the offer of the contract appointment. Which rule specify this? Now, for this kind of question, you should know that it is chapter 2 because chapter 2 talks about appointment. You should know that it might be in section 4 because section 4 talks about contract appointment. So your problem will be, which rule is it? Is it rule 5, rule 6, rule 7, or rule 8? Now, considering the rule, will come to see that rule number 6I specifies that, and the correct option is option B. PSR rule number chapter 2 section 4 rule 6I states that the contract officer must, as part of his duty, be responsible for monitoring serving officers as a condition for the offer of the contract appointment. Now, take note of this. Very, very important. Question number 15. What is the process for terminating a contract appointment? A letter of termination is issued directly by the ministry. B, a recommendation to the Federal Civil Service Commission is required. C, the contract is terminated at the discretion of the permanent secretary. D, a simple verbal notification is sufficient. Now, to terminate a contract appointment, a process must start off, and the accounting officer of the ministry, who is a permanent secretary, according to PSR rule chapter 2 section 4 rule 7, state that any appointment on contract may be terminated by the government who is represented by the accounting officer of the ministry, who is the permanent secretary, in accordance with the terms specified. But then he has to make recommendation and consideration to the Federal Civil Service Commission, who in turn has the final say after their investigation and every other thing to terminate the contract. So we should take note of this, that it is not, the process starts with a recommendation to the Federal Civil Service Commission, who in turn will consider the recommendation and make the required decision. So the correct option is option B. Now let's look at the next question, question number 16. An officer on a contract appointment who desires re-engagement must inform the government in writing not less than how many months before the expiration of his contract? Is it 1 month? A, B, 2 months, C, 3 months, or D, 4 months? The correct option, according to the PSR Rule 8, Section 4, is what? It's 4 months. It shouldn't be less than 4 months before the leave is what is due. So the contract, a contractor who desire to renew, an officer on contract who desire to re-engage, who desire to renew his contract appointment should inform the government in writing through the accounting officer or the head of extra-ministerial offices in not less than 4 months before his leave is due. The correct option is option D. Question number 17. A sabbatical appointment applies to which grade level? As a director, as somebody entering the directorate level, is it grade level 15 and equivalent or equivalent and above, grade level 14 or equivalent and above, grade level 12 or equivalent and above, or grade level 10 and equivalent and above? The correct option is grade level 15 and equivalent and above. According to PSR Rule Chapter 2, Section 4, Rule 13, it states that sabbatical appointment applies to grade 15 and above. Question number 18. What is the tenure for an intern or a volunteer in the public service? Is it A, a maximum of 6 months? Is it B, not more than 12 months in a full-time academic section? Is it C, 2 years? Or is it D, a maximum of 18 months? Remember, the tenure for an intern or a volunteer in the public service. Public Service Rule 18 of Chapter 2, Section 4 states that interns shall be engaged for 3 to 6 months on a part-time basis during an academic section and for a period of not more than 12 months on a full-time basis. Now take note. The question says, what is the tenure for an intern or a volunteer in the public service rule? So the correct option is option B. It should not be more than 12 months in a full-time academic section. Remember, there are other options there that has to do with 6 months and the rest, but the correct option is what? Is option B. Take note of this. Question number 20. What is the definition of volunteerism according to the rule? Is it A, offering services for payment? B, offering one's time or talent for a free? C, offering one's time or talent for charitable, educational, or other worthwhile activities, especially in one's community, without remuneration? Or D, offering services for a short-time contract? The correct option to this question is option C. According to the Public Service Rule 16 of Chapter 2, Section 4, defines volunteerism as a practice of offering one's time or talent for charitable, educational, or other worthwhile activity, especially in one's community. So the correct option is option C. Question number 21. What is the legal framework required for processing short-term engagement? A, the negotiation, drafting, and execution of contract of engagement by the parties. B, a simple letter of appointment. C, an official memo. D, a circular from the head of the civil service of the Federation. The correct option is option A, And according to Rule 21 of Chapter 2, Section 4, it states that due processes are followed in the negotiation, drafting, execution of contract of engagement by the parties on all term appointments, short-term appointments. So the correct option is option A. Now we're going to look at transfer and secondment. Now I want you to take note that the reason why we are doing this video version of the 599 page book we have produced is to help persons who are not used to reading, who would love listening and watching, to enjoy preparing for their exams. So we want you to make good use of these resources we are providing in order to enhance your preparation for your exams, and that will help you become successful in your exams. Now we'll be looking at transfer and secondment. Under the transfer and secondment section, we'll be looking at question number 22. How is transfer defined in the Public Service Rule? Is it a temporary release of an officer to the service of another government or international body? Remember, is it B, the permanent release of an officer from one scheduled service to another or from one class to another within the same service? Is it the movement of an officer from one ministry to another? Or D, the movement of an officer to a new post on promotion? So which is the best option? Remember, we're talking about transfer. Transfer, the best option, the correct option is option B. Transfer is the permanent release of an officer from one scheduled service to another or from one class to another within the same service. Take note of this. The correct option is option B. Now let's look at question number 23. The authority to process inter-service transfer and secondment for a post-graded grade 6 and below lies with which body? A, the Federal Civil Service Commission. B, the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. C, the appropriate committee of befitting ministry or extra-ministerial offices. And D, the permanent secretary or head of extra-ministerial offices. The correct option for this question is option C. Remember, the PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 2 states that applications for transfer or secondment to post on grade level 6 and below shall be considered by the appropriate committee, which is the junior staff committee of the befitting ministry or extra-ministerial offices. So the correct option for this question is option C, the appropriate committee. Question number 24. An officer applying for an inter-service transfer or secondment to a post on grade level 07 to 10 is required to sit for which examination? Is it A, compulsory confirmation examination, B, promotional examination, D, annual competitive civil service entry examination, or D, the efficiency bar examination? An officer applying for an inter-service transfer or secondment to a post on grade level 07 to 10 is required to sit for which exams? According to the PSR Rule, Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 3, under Part 2, states that officers seeking a transfer from a scheduled establishment on grade level 7 to 10 are required to sit for the annual competitive civil service entry examination and is required to pass the exams in order to seek a transfer from a scheduled establishment to another. So the correct option is option C. Question number 25. Question 25 says, what is the maximum period an officer can be seconded to another government or recognized international organization? Is it 2 years in the first instance with extension up to 4 years? 1 year in the first instance with extension up to 2 years, or C, 3 years with no extension, 4 years with no extension. The correct option is option A. According to Public Service Rule Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 3, 5, Part 5 states that secondment can be for a maximum period of 2 years in the first instance and with extension not to exceed what? 4 years. So the extension can be extended, but it must not be more than 4 years. So the correct option is 2 years in the first instance with extension up to 4 years. Question number 26. During a period of secondment, what happens to the officer's substantive post and promotion prospects? A. The officer forfeits their substantive post and promotion. B. The officer's substantive post is held in abeyance and they are not entitled to promotion. C. The officer's substantive post is held and they are entitled to be treated as having been posted on special duty with their promotion prospect maintained. And D. The officer is permanently transferred to the new organization. According to the PSR Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 3H, states that during secondment, the officer's substantive post shall continue to be held, and he or she will be entitled to increment and promotion and will be treated as having been posted on special duty. So the correct option is option C. Question number 27. Question number 27 says, what is the entitlement of an officer on transfer on promotion? The officer is entitled to the salary of the lower grade. B. The officer is not entitled to any promotion benefit. C. The officer is entitled to the salary of the new grade. D. The officer is placed on a probational period in the new grade. The right option, the correct option to this question is option C, and specify that rules specify that an applicant shall be considered for transfer on promotion to any MDA except in response to an advertised post. What is the condition for a transfer to be approved? A. The applicant must have a clean record. B. The applicant must have served for a minimum of 2 years. C. The applicant must be confirmed in their present appointment. And D. All of the above. Now, the right option to this question is option D, because if you check all the options, all these options are specified in Rule 2, Chapter Section 5, and Rule 7 of the PSR rule. And it states that the applicant must be confirmed in their present appointment. Apart from that, the applicant must also have a clean record. The applicant must have also served for a minimum of 2 years, and he must have been confirmed in their present appointment. So section D contains all of these words. Answer option D contains all of these. Rule 7 contains all of that. Now let's look at question number 29. What is the requirement for permanent secretaries or head of extraministerial offices regarding transfer on junior posts? A. They must notify the Federal Civil Service Commission immediately. B. They must not accept any staff seconded without the endorsement of the Federal Civil Service Commission or board. C. They must obtain approval from the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. And D. They must conduct an interview for the staff. The correct option is option D. According to Rule 7 of Section 5, Chapter 2 of the PSR, it states that no ministry shall accept any staff seconded to it without the endorsement of the Federal Civil Service Commission or its board. So the correct option is option B. Let's look at question number 30. Who is responsible for paying the salary of an officer on secondment? A. The parent MDA that released the officer. B. The MDA where the officer is seconded to. C. The office of the head of the civil service of the federation. And D. Both MDA shares the cost. Now the correct answer, this is a bit dicey. The correct answer is option B. Now, Civil Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 4 states that the MDA with the higher salary shall be responsible for the payment of the salary, while the non-salary allowances should be paid by the receiving what? MDA. Now, I want you to check this rule very well. There are some specific terms you need to know which will help you answer question on this part. In case the question is twisted, you can be able to still be able to get the right option. Now, the parent MDA and the MDA that is receiving the seconded officer has duty in this part. So make sure you read that part so as to know what their various duty is and to be able to answer this question if the questions is twisted, because that is the essence of CBT question. Your examiner will treat the question so as to see if you really understand the content of the public service rule. Question number 31. What is the requirement for MDAs regarding staffs on transfer or secondment? A. They must make quarterly returns to the Federal Civil Service Commission and the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. B. They must submit a report every 6 months. C. They must seek approval from the Federal Civil Service Commission for every transfer. And D. They must maintain a list of all seconded staffs. The right option to this is option A. Public Service Rule 2, Section 5, Chapter 2, Section 5, Rule 9 states that MDA shall make quarterly returns to the Federal Civil Service Commission and the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation on the number of stars on transfer and secondment. So the requirement for MDA is that they should what? They should always what? They should always make quarterly return to the Federal Civil Service Commission and to the head of the Civil Service of the Federation regarding the number of their staffs on secondment and transfer. Option A. Question number 37 and down and above will be taken from the section that has to do with posting of officers. Now let's consider questions number 32. What is the definition of posting according to the Public Service Rule? Is it A, the temporary movement of an officer, B, the initial assignment of an officer in a position or job scheduled in an MDA, or C, the permanent transfer of an officer to a new location, D, the movement of an officer on promotion? The correct option to this question, according to PSR Chapter 2, Section 6, Rule 1, define posting as the initial assignment of an officer in a position or job scheduled in an MDA, or reassignment to another position or job scheduled within and outside his current MDA or department. So the correct option is B, the initial assignment of an officer in a position or job scheduled in an MDA, and that is what they call posting. Question number 33. Who is responsible for posting and redeploying all senior staff? Is it A, the Federal Civil Service Commission? Is it B, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation? Is it C, the Ministry or Extra-Ministerial Department? Is it D, the Permanent Secretary or head of Extra-Ministerial Office? The right option to this question is option D. The rule states that all senior staff can be posted or redeployed to new posts in accordance with the approved employee mobility policy. And that is what? That is D. The permanent secretary or head of extra-ministerial offices have the power and is responsible for posting and redeploying all senior what officers according to the approved employee mobility policy. Now I want you to take your time and look at what this employee mobility policy is all about, so that if extended questions is asked on this, you can be able to give an answer or find a very good objective answers to it. Question number 34. For an officer posted outside their professional cadre, what is the mandatory period they should serve in such a post? Is it A, 2 years, B, 4 years, C, 6 years, or D, 8 years? Question number 34, according to Rule 2I and Section and Part B, stipulates that posting of officers to post outside their professional cadre is prohibited. However, Rule 2IC says that posting of full officers in the service shall be mandatory every 4 years. So the correct option to this question is option what? Is option B. Take note of this, very important. For an officer posted outside their professional cadre, what is the mandatory period they must serve in such a post? Outside their professional cadre, what is the mandatory period they might serve? Remember, officers cannot be posted outside their professional cadre. It is totally prohibited. But if this rule is considered, that the posting of the pool officer in such service should be mandatory, it should be done every 4 years. Take note of this rule. They are very important. Now let's consider question number 35. The principle of posting is intended to ensure that the system is not used as a tool for what? A, recognition, B, punishment of favoritism, C, promotion, and D, training. Question number 35 is, correct option is B. Rule 3 of the PSR emphasizes that posting is done to ensure fairness of all officers and that the system is not used as a tool for coercion, punishment, or favoritism. So the correct option is what? B. It's not used for punishment or favoritism. Question number 6. Now I want you to note something in this question number 5. You can look at this option, the rule of thumb. You can look at this option and you know that the only negative vices here is punishment and favoritism. So even if you don't read this part, you should know that the only odd option is option B. So if you choose option B, you'll be in the right place. Now let's look at option. We'll be taking the right option. Question 36. Who is responsible for submitting a report on compliance with posting instructions to the relevant pool office within 3 weeks of the release of the instruction? Is it A, the permanent secretary, B, the director of human resources, D, the head of the civil service of evaluation, and C and D, the office being posted? The right option is option B. According to Public Service Rule 5, Chapter 2, Section 6, it states that the Director of Human Resources shall be expected to submit a report on compliance to posting instruction to the relevant pool office within 3 weeks of the release of the instruction. So the correct option is option B. That's the duty of the DHR. Now let's look at question number 37. An officer who desires to live and work in the location where their spouses live should be allowed to do so, provided what? That A, the spouse is also a public servant, B, the officer can prove the marriage to the spouse, C, the branch of the MDA has an established relevant post, and D, the posting does not affect the officer's career progression. The correct option to this question is option C. Rule 8 states that an officer can be posted to their spouse location provided the branch of his MDA can be found in that spouse location and that there is a relevant established post at the branch. Question number 38. What is the primary responsibility of all employees of the federal government with regard to union activities? Very important. A. To participate in all union meetings. B. To discharge the duties assigned by the employee to the Nigerian public in a timely and efficient manner. C. To ensure the union executive are posted to suitable locations. And D. To report to the head of the civil service of the Federation. Rule 9 of Section 6 of Chapter 2 of the Public Service Rule states that the primary responsibility of all employees is to discharge the duties assigned by their employers to the Nigerian public in a timely and efficient manner. So, question number C says that is the primary responsibility of employees of the federal government with regard to union activities. Very important. Question number 39. What is the tenure of trade union or staff association executive? Is it A, 2 terms of 2 years each, 2 terms of 4 years each, a single term of 4 years, or a single term of 2 years? The correct option to this question is option A. Rule 2, Section 6, Rule 12, Section 6 and Chapter 2 states that the tenure of trade union or staff association executive is 2 terms in their constitution. The duration for each term should not be more than 2 years. The duration for each term should not be more than 2 years. Correct option is option A. 2 terms of 2 years each. Question number 40. What happens to labor union executive at the expiration of their tenure in office? They are automatically promoted. They are immediately redeployed. They shall not be posted out of their MDAs. They are offered a new contract. The Rule 10, Section 6 of Chapter 2 specifies that labor union executive shall not be posted out of their MDA until the expiration of their tenure. So the correct option is option C. They shall not be posted out of their MDA until the expiration of their tenure in their offices. Question number 41. What is the consequence of posting an officer in a manner that results in the loss of institutional memory? A. The posting will be approved. B. The posting is considered a bad practice and should be avoided. C. The officer will be compensated for the loss. And D. The posting will be cancelled. The right option for this question is option B. Rule 3I states that posting should not result in the loss of institutional memory in any department, division, or unit, nor impair its ability to continue to provide quality service to both internal and external stakeholders. Now, the final part of this section will be looking at the acting appointment. In the acting appointment, we'll be looking at question number 42. When can an acting appointment be made? A. Only when a substantive post becomes vacant. B. Where a particular duty post is not lower than senior grade level 14 and the substantive holder is on leave, otherwise not available for posting. C. When an officer is being considered for promotion. And D. Only for a short period of time. The correct option to this question is option B. Rule 1 of Section 7 of the Public Service Rule, Chapter 2 specifies that An acting appointment is made when a particular duty post is not lower than the SGL 14 becomes vacant because the substantive holder is on leave, secondment, or other similar circumstances. The correct option is option B. Question number 43. An acting appointment is not a form of trial. For what purpose? A. Confirmation of appointment, promotion, probation, or transfer. D. Transfer. Rule 3 of Section 7 explicitly states that acting appointment is not intended as a means of testing the suitability of officers for promotion. So, they are not intended for what? For the purpose of promotion. Question number 44. What is the maximum duration of an acting appointment? A. 1 month. B. 6 months. C. 1 year. And D. 2 years. Correct option is option C. Rule 5 states that an acting appointment shall not exceed 1 year, but in exceptional circumstances, it can be extended for another 1 year, which makes it what? A maximum of 2 years. But the correct option is option C, 1 year. In some exceptional cases or circumstances, it will be extended for another 1 year. So the maximum is just 1 year. Take note of this question. It is very important. It is not 2 years, but what? But 1 year. It's only on exceptional cases that it can be what? Extended for 1 year. 45. What is the effective date of an acting appointment? The date of the Gazette notice of the appointment. B. The date of which the officer takes over substantively the duties and responsibility of the post. C. The date the Federal Civil Service Commission is notified. And D. The first day of the month. According to Public Service Rule, Chapter 2, Section 12, Rule 5, it states that the date on which an acting position commences will be indicated in the Gazette notice authorizing the appointment and takes effect when the officer takes over the duty and responsibility. So the correct option is option B, the date on which the officer takes over substantively the duties and responsibilities of the post. That is when it starts, it takes effect. Question number 46. What happens to an acting appointment when the substantive holder returns to the station? A. The acting appointment is confirmed. B. The acting appointment ceases immediately. C. The acting officer is redeployed. D. The acting officer is demoted. The right option is option B. Rule 6 states that an acting appointment ceases immediately an officer relinquishes the duties and responsibility of the post or when the substantive holder returns to the what? To the station. Question number 47. What is the responsibility of ministry regarding acting appointments? A. They must inform the Federal Civil Service Commission about the acting appointment. B. They must obtain approval from the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. C. They must conduct a fresh promotion exercise. D. They must give a written test to the officer. The right option, according to the Public Service Rule 7, specifies that ministry shall be required to notify the Federal Civil Service Commission when officers revert from acting appointments. So the correct option is option A. They must inform the Federal Civil Service Commission about the acting appointments. Question number 48. What happens if an officer on an acting appointment proceeds on casual or special leave? A. The acting appointment ceases. B. The acting appointment is suspended. C. The officer will not be regarded as relinquishing the duty and responsibility of the acting appointment. And D. The acting appointment is extended. The correct option is option C. The rule states that an acting officer will not be regarded as relinquishing the duties and responsibility of the acting appointment when proceeding on casual or special leave. So the acting appointment is what, according to C, will not be regarded as relinquishing the duties and responsibility of the appointment. Question number 49. Who is responsible for making acting appointment for a duty post below senior grade level 14? A. The Federal Civil Service Commission. B. The Permanent Secretary or Head of Extraministerial Office. C. The Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. D. This is not explicitly stated in the provided text. Below senior grade level 14. Rule 1 of Section 7, Chapter 2 specifies that acting appointments are made for a duty post not lower than senior grade level 14. So it does not provide information for posts below this grade level 14. Take note of this question. It is tricky and very tactical. So the correct option is option what? Option D. Now question number 50, which is the last but not the least. When does the cessation of an acting appointment not happen? A. When the substantive holder of the duty post resumes. B. When the acting officer takes up another post. C. When the acting officer proceeds on casual or special leave. Or D. When the acting officer is promoted. The correct option to this question is option C. Rule 8 states that the acting officer will not be regarded as relinquishing the duty of the acting position when on casual leave. So, this is the last of the question we'll be looking at. Thank you very much for watching, and if you want an update of such videos some other time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can get notified immediately we upload a video like this. Once more, thanks so much for watching and see you next time.